Greetings! Welcome to the bunkhouse here at Cerro Gordo. This building was originally built in 1913 and used to house miners when this town was the largest producer of silver for California. But for the past 100 years, much like the rest of the town, it's sat mostly abandoned. And when I bought this town 2 years ago, this building needed a lot of work. So when I moved here in March, full time, this was kind of my first project. It was where I was learning to do a lot of things. And I got about halfway done, and then we lost the American Hotel. So all of my focus needed to go on that. So this project was once again abandoned. But this week, I'm getting back into it. I'm gonna tell you guys the history of this building, show you the renovations I've done, and tell you my one and only ghost story from Cerro Gordo that happened right in that window right there. So stay tuned. This is renovating a 100-year-old bunkhouse. So here we go. It's a creepy little bunkhouse. Beautiful old stove. When I first came here in March, this floor was coated with thick brown paint. So I had no idea the status of this floor underneath. And as you came back here, this hallway had really old brownish gray carpet all the way back, and each of the rooms had carpet too. So my first step was to rip up all the carpet. I ripped up all the padding, and then I found that once upon a time they had painted the floors. So all the floors kind of looked like that. So what I did is I went to Home Depot, I rented a box sander, and I sanded the floors. And there's very few things as satisfying as seeing a piece of wood that looks like that turn into a piece of wood that looks like that. So it was very inspiring and motivating as one of my first renovation projects to see that going on. And as I was getting it completed, I was focusing mainly on the rooms on the left side of the hallway. So as you see here, this is kind of how I would love the floors to eventually look. They're beautiful to me, this kind of golden color with light walls, minimally decorated. And this room even has the original blueprints from the hotel. And as you look out, you see the church and you see the former hotel site. And I was moving along good. I was making progress, getting all of these rooms done. And then we had the tragedy of the American Hotel burning down. And when the American Hotel burned down, this building lost power because power comes from over there, it runs down to the church and then over to here. And so with no power, there was no way to continue sanding in here. And I just really had to focus on the American Hotel at that point. All right, so this bunkhouse was built in 1913 and it had 6 rooms and 0 bathrooms, but that's one of the renovation projects I'm working on. And back in the day, it was for miners that were coming into town, needed a cheap place to stay, so they kind of crash in here. And for me, I always thought it would be an amazing building for groups or families. All the 6 rooms are fairly close to each other. Down one hallway, there's a room on either side, 3 back. And so I thought, if a group was coming up here and they had 5 or 6 people, this way they could have their own space. There's this cool little kitchen area. And so my hope was to renovate it to the point where people could still feel that rustic bit of mining history, but make it a little bit more comfortable. When we bought the property, I was told that the floors underneath the carpet were not worth saving. And so that's why they had carpet on them, just because they weren't salvageable. But as I took up the carpet, I realized it was the furthest thing from the truth. There's beautiful 100-year-old hardwood floors underneath them. So with a little sanding and a little clear coat, they really started shining again. I've loved learning how to rebuild stuff or even refinish things. It just gives you the sense of autonomy that I didn't have a year ago. When I moved up here, I was basically useless as far as renovations or any type of building stuff. It wasn't taught to me. I don't think it was taught to a whole generation. And I remember my dad's dad was a mechanic at GM his whole life. And he built his house from scratch with his own hands. And he had a basement where he had a shop. And I remember one day he came up to me, he goes, what do you want to make? We can make anything in the world. And at the time I was really into baseball. So I said, I want to make a baseball bat. And so we went out We found a piece of ash. We went down to the basement. He put it on his lathe. And over the course of days, I saw a raw piece of wood become the exact baseball bat that I wanted, to the specifications, and we finished it, and it was amazing. And 20 years later, I've had a lot of baseball bats, a lot of wooden baseball bats, but the only one that I still have is that one that my grandfather built, because I understood the effort and the time that went into the craft of making it. And I think that's why I've grown to appreciate Cerro Gordo so much and all the buildings here so much, just because I've gotten under the floorboards. I understand what these buildings are made of and the care that it takes to bring them back to life. And I feel like a strong sense of possession over them for that reason, And it's something that I don't feel in everyday life. I think if had I hired contractors and managers from afar to come in here and refinish this floor, I wouldn't appreciate it nearly as much as I do. And I want to give me this connection to the town that I have, and I've loved it. I really enjoy having that. Before I would have had to hire contractors for basically everything here. I wasn't able to do anything, and I was on their whim. When they could show up, how much they were going to charge, how long it was going to take them. And now I'm not necessarily as dependent on those things. I can come in here and bust out a lot of these projects myself, and while I still need contractors to do a lot of stuff, especially licensed things, I can still come in here and make a difference. And so I don't mind doing it. And in fact, I kind of love doing it. All right, as they say, it's about to go down. So you get all this. This is like my staging room. I'll deal with this when the time comes. So I'm gonna put some stuff over here from these two rooms. Let's get this place looking nice. Finish the job I started 10 months ago. All right, most of sanding is done. As you can see, look at that, clean edges. I love that. Now I'm just vacuuming it up, then I'm gonna stain it. And I'm leaving some of the paint on there, like I said, because I want that little bit of look cool. I might clean up a little bit of that, but generally, I think this is gonna be a beautiful floor here in a second. Most of sanding in the hallway is done as well. So we're rocking and rolling. We should be able to get this thing wrapped up in, I don't know, day or so. I love it. Just feels much more bright and energetic in here. Yes, I like the look of that. Look at that. Coming soon. That's what that looked like. Amazing what a little clear coat does. Woo-wee. Now let's get this. This building has my one and only ghost story from Cerro Gordo. And so my other goal with brightening it up was to hopefully bring some lighter energy into the space. And so I guess with that, I have to tell you my one ghost story, and it goes kind of like this. So my favorite sunset spot is just above this building up on the cliff there. You've seen it in some of the other videos, and it's a stunning view of both Death Valley and Mount Whitney. And to get up there, you kind of pass by the bunkhouse. And maybe a year and a half ago, I was walking past here and I was going up to the sunset spot. And as I was pushing the bunkhouse, out of this window right here, I saw the lace curtains open, a face looked out at me, and they closed, and this light above me was on. And initially that didn't freak me out that much, because we had contractors up here helping us with the renovations. This was over a year ago. And so I thought, oh, no big deal. The contractors were all staying in the bunkhouse. I'll worry about that tomorrow. So I went up, watched the sunset, didn't think twice of it, came back down. And in the morning, I walked over to Robert's house, the caretaker here. I was like, hey, Robert, how long are the contractors staying in the bunkhouse? I remember he kind of slowly turned to me. He's like, they left 2 weeks ago. And for me, my heart just kind of dropped because I know I saw somebody looking out this window right here. And so I'm a pretty practical person, very rational. You know, I was never a big ghost guy growing up. So I marched back over here, came to the door. I remember first checking for drafts. You know, maybe the wind moved because of the drafts. No drafts. And so I twisted that shut. You have to twist it to turn on and off. So I twisted it to where it was completely off. I shut the curtains really tightly, and I went out that door there and I added a padlock to it. So nobody else in the world had the key to this padlock. And that night, as I went to watch the sunset again, I came back by and the light in the kitchen was back on. It was just one of those things where I know I am the only human being in the world with a key to get into that padlock. So something turned back on this light. And so for me, my response was to go and investigate. So I remember coming back through the door, unlocking it, coming in, sure enough, this was twisted again to where it was on. And then as I started walking down the hallway to investigate, every step back, I just got this greater sense that I shouldn't be there. And by the time I get to the back of the bunkhouse, I had an overwhelming sensation that was saying just run. So I remember like running out of the bunkhouse, locking the door, and basically never coming back into this building again at night. It's somewhere I just don't go at night. My mentality is like this, you know, I have plenty of buildings to hang out in and do whatever I need to do. If the ghosts need one for themselves, they can have it. All right, final room. Let's get this done. Sun's about to set. Perfect timing to get this thing wrapped up. Let it dry overnight. Maybe another coat on this eventually, but this bunkhouse is looking excellent. Look at that floor and that contrast with that blue. I think the verdict's out. I think this room stays blue. And so when people come and ask why there's one blue room and the rest of white rooms, you know what to tell them. It just looks better. I'm gonna get the stuff in here. I'm almost done. As you can see, I just gotta move around some stuff. It is looking beautiful, and I don't think it shows on camera how awesome this wood looks, but I love it. I am very happy with it. So let's get some stuff back in here and kind of give you the final walkthrough. All right, are you guys ready for this? The final walkthrough. Remember what it used to look like. Remember what it looks like now. Whoa. Pretty big difference, huh? Look at that floor. How exciting is that? Look how awesome that floor looks. Compared to that thick brown paint. There you go. You guys gotta give me a little bit of a break. I'm not the best cleaner, but I think this place is looking great. And if we go back into my brand new hallway, let's take the blue room first. Blue room. There you go. You're telling me you wouldn't stay in that room? Even if it might be haunted? I think it looks awesome. And I think this weird old carpet wall hanging kind of works in this setting. Again, I had to use what I had as far as beds. If you were to take this room, ta-da! Again, basic furnishings, but pretty cool stuff. Original floor plans for the hotel. This is actually a sheep skull that was found here at Cerro Gordo, which is pretty awesome. All right, and if we continue down the hallway, this room's kind of the warmest room. So if you're thinking about coming to Cerro Gordo, this might be the room for you because you got the fireplace and got a little desk. And if you were to look out the window, eventually, that is where the hotel will be. Right there. Soon enough, hopefully. And now, that room's still drying. This room has the stuff from this room, but look at this floor. Man, that's a beautiful floor if I've ever seen a beautiful floor. So it's not quite the grand reveal. This still has to dry. I don't want to mess it up. I'm gonna give it 2 days because it's so cold. This is the final room with stuff from over there. But this would be your view every morning. Wake up. Enjoy the mountain ranges and live a pretty good life. So that's it. That's the bunkhouse for now. Obviously, there's a bunch of all smaller things that I need to do over the coming days and weeks, but generally, I'm really happy with it. And I can't wait to one day share it with all you guys. This month, more than almost any other month that I can remember in my life, I just feel like me again. And that might sound strange, but it kind of clicked when I was looking through photos of when I was a kid. And in one of the photos, I'm standing there at 12 years old next to this anchor that's almost twice my height. And the backstory there is that my grandfather, while I was growing up, had a cabin on Lake Ontario, right where Lake Ontario met the St. Lawrence River. And the War of 1812 was fought in that area. And growing up, I learned to scuba dive in Lake Ontario, so I would spend a lot of time out there searching for anything that might be there. And one day, I remember going along, and down in the weeds, there was this line pointed up. And I dove down there in the dark weeds, and it turned out to be a battleship anchor from the War of 1812. And we had to go down to shore, convince people in the community to bring out their power boats, probably 10 guys tied off to the anchor, and we were able to bring it back to shore. I remember as soon as it was back to shore, this feeling of excitement came over me and curiosity, like what were the circumstances that left that anchor there? Did the ship crash? Who was the last guy that touched that anchor? What did their ship look like? And I remember just researching the War of 1812 for weeks afterwards. And where it ended was that anchor was brought to a small museum in upstate New York, where it still is today. And lots of people get to learn from this anchor and, experience the history of the War of 1812. And when I saw the photo, everything kind of just clicked. Here I am 20 years later, looking around dark places for artifacts to hopefully come back up, reconstruct a history around, and put into a small museum. And when I saw it, it just was a snapshot of what I've been feeling the whole month. Just a comfort and ease of, this is who I am. Because I haven't always felt like that. When I graduated from college, I got a job as an investment banker because that was the thing to do. I just remember the whole time at the bank feeling like a zombie or like a shell of a human being just going through the motions. And that feeling stuck with me for a very long time. Even after I quit and gone on to do other things, I still didn't fully feel at home with myself. And I have to say this month, the 11th month up here, is the first time I really feel at home. Not just in the physical sense, but in the emotional sense. It's been a really exciting time for me. And I share that because maybe you feel a little bit not at home and you could think back to what got you excited or what activities you did as a kid, and you can maybe reincorporate those in some way. I don't know, just a thought. But as I sit here looking at the sunset over Mount Whitney, I wanted to share that. And I also wanted to share how much this channel means to me and how much I appreciate you guys following along. It's been 11 of the best months of my life, in no small part because of everybody supporting through this channel. So thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm going to sit here and watch the rest of the sunset. And I hope you guys have a great week. And I hope to see you guys next week.